Welcome to the inaugural Light Creates Shadow, the Collective Synchronicity podcast, episode 1. Who the hell is Light Creates Shadow? Why do you care? What is this all about? Well, we are a band. Everyone's in a band. Doesn't matter if you're in a band anymore. What does it actually mean to be in a band? So why do you want to listen to me talk about that? No one is going to talk about the true nature of making music with other people and the philosophy and the spiritual reasons for doing that. I think it's really important to talk about things that matter in creativity and music in a day and age when it's been devalued. It's been thought of as not really of an art form that has much value anymore. We really want to change that perception. And there's so much music out there. There's so many creators of music. Everything gets lost in the noise. People trying to make their imprint. If they garner enough likes and followers on social media that this is a validation of their worth as an artist. And I'd like to refute that, really. We're not a band that has a lot of likes. We don't have a lot of commercial success. We've had a few nice things happen to our band, but we're three guys that are lifelong musicians, and they synchronistically came together later in life. Because of the culture around music, we have devalued what it means to create together. All of us that are creators or artists, musicians, we all value the work that we put into our craft or our art, but very few do it for the right reasons. And this isn't a judgment, and this isn't somebody that has tried and failed. I think that my life as an artist has been one of total magic. And that's primarily what I want to start with, is music as magic. And that being in a band is really being creators of magic. The great bands have an intuitive knowing of what their music represents. It's an agreement on the journey. And it's an innate understanding of their abilities individually and their spirit that they put into their performance and the love that they put into their playing together. And the intuition is really key. Like, you have to be competent at your instrument. You have to work towards developing your own playing style, your own sound, your own voice. And that doesn't happen overnight. Playing in a band is really a mystical experience. If you allow it to be that in your life and not make it about these other things, about acquiring monetary value for your craft or your art, requiring external validation for what you've done. And this is a huge issue for everybody. And I want to be a voice saying that it doesn't fucking matter what other people think of your art. It doesn't matter what kind of music you play. If you express yourself authentically, then people will gravitate towards that if they're meant to gravitate towards it. It should not be a deterrent for you as an artist, whether or not you are universally accepted. You're accepted in your community, your musical community, or not. Allowing these factors to come into your consciousness and affect the outcome of your expression is a detriment. It truly is about finding your authentic voice as an artist and not aping, not copying, not mimicking what has come before you. Now, I'm not saying that we've never been influenced. We have tons of influences, but it's really important to find my own voice as an artist. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen by copying my favorite performers, my favorite artists. And I dedicated my whole life to finding that voice, finding my own style as a guitarist, as a singer. I'm very far from being the best at either of those things or at anything in my life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It only mattered to me how I felt about my externalization of my expression. The number one thing for me as an artist was to be authentically myself. And I think if you listen to any of my recorded music, that's what you hear. And I'm really proud of that. And, it doesn't matter that we're not successful. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because we're not successful. I'm interested in having people that want to listen to our music based around the context of the creative process as magic in real time is one of the things that we're talking about. And this has a lot of different components to it. And there's a lot of conceptual identity to our music. And I've, publicly stated that in interviews and on the website. And you can read deeper into that, but I'm going to be expanding on that and talking about what it really means to have a conceptual identity to your music. There's real depth to the magic that happens in the totality of light, create, shadow. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. And, if you're interested in that, it causes you to be interested in the band and what we're all about and what we're doing. And that's great. If you're not, and you think the music sucks, which I know there's plenty of people that do. It's not the core reason for really doing this podcast. I think that the old paradigms of how to gain followers or listeners or an audience is pretty dead. I think if you're a rock band going out and playing bars to a bunch of professional alcoholics, that's not the path for my band. And that may be the path for other bands. And there's plenty of bands in town in Portland, Oregon, which is where we are located, that do that, and they do it really well, and they have a blast, and I'm all for them. I'm just presenting a different platform, what being in a band can be and what it is actually about to me and to our band. And I'd really like to give a big hug to people that are interested in that and interested in having a different kind of relationship with the artist. When other bands talk about that, it's not the way that you want it to be as a listener, rabid fan of that band. I really want to draw people in that are interested in having and being a participant in this experience of transference between audience and artist, which happens on a bunch of different levels. And listen, I am I am not saying we're more special than anybody else, but as a fan, as a lifelong music worshiper, I have had these experiences throughout my life with other artists. And I never understood why it wasn't more embraced between audience and artist as like a bridge to a deeper connection. I want to create that bridge with you. And I think that this is a good platform to do it because you're going to get an insight into what it takes to create that bridge and what this music really means to me specifically, and how it can be a relationship that grows and has value and has magic and has healing. I think music at its base level is insanely healing. And, not everyone thinks about it that way. And healing oftentimes takes place in a very unconscious space, which leads me to Carl Jung, who is one of the biggest influences on me as a being, not just as a artist. And for those that don't know who Jung was, he was a Swiss psychiatrist, one of the fathers of psychoanalysis. Freud and Jung were close for a moment, but he is one of the biggest influences on psychology even today. A lot of terminology that we use in this culture was created by him. Synchronicity is a concept that he developed. Archetypes are a concept that he developed. Individuation, the transformative function. I am not an expert on Jung, but I am a worshiper for sure. He had a reinterpretation of a lot of the concepts that Freud developed. Primarily the analysis of dreams was a big one. And the shadow self obviously plays a huge factor in the philosophy of our band. He's just profound. Another concept that he developed was something called active imagination. In future podcasts, I'm going to heavily discuss this, and I believe that music is a catalyst for active imagination, and it's something that we are trying to develop as part of that bridge between audience and artist. This development is a mutually reciprocal relationship. And this is not artist up on the stage, being in the spotlight, being pedestalized. I actually don't believe in that. And we will be further delving deep into active imagination, which has other relevant references to concepts that are core to who we are as a band. The band internally has struggled with how to categorize ourselves. We're really just on our own island. Most people, have a few references, but we're not exactly metal. We're progressive, but we're not prog. We're heavy, but not metal. I actually like that. It has not helped us to connect with other genres and bands in town or regionally. But we've had some success. We put out an album last year that was recorded by Matt Bayless, who is just an amazing producer and engineer, really well known for his early work with Mastodon and ISIS and Russian Circles and Caspian and just a bunch of other stuff he's worked on. He's an engineer on many Pearl Jam records and Soundgarden records and Alice in Chains, and he's really done it all. And so we were really, really blessed to have worked with him last year on our last record, and that was recorded at Studio Litho in Seattle. which is Stone Gossard's studio. Lots of great records are made there. We've had some success last year with this record, and I had like a lot of lofty goals of just bringing this conceptual identity to the public, but it wasn't successful in the way that I wanted it to be. And we had some other problems, like our vinyl record that's a whole other podcast, by the way, but our vinyl record got pushed back for about 7 months, 6 or 7 months. The company that we actually went with went bankrupt and didn't tell us. So we almost lost all of our money that we had put down. But luckily the company that took over produced the vinyl. So we have some of those. It's been a real experience over the last year. And so to me, this was an avenue, a path to take to try to connect with people that are, interested in having like a deeper experience with the artist and with the music. And not everybody's into that. But at the same time, I think that the art form is missing this depth. For Light Creates Shadow, we can't play in those rules. Like we're not playing the same game anymore. And it's a totally different world of music creation, music promotion. As an artist, as all of you artists out there, musicians out there know, that are independent, you have to do everything. You have to do everything. And it's daunting. And it's really unfair in a lot of ways. So anyways, that's kind of my rant on what this podcast is about, who Light Creates Shadow is. And, if you're interested in some of these concepts and like developing a different relationship with a band, this is the place to be. I'm going to be talking in a lot more depth about the concepts and Jungian philosophy and thought, the artist-audience relationship, my beliefs on guitar playing, and about the dynamics in a band, the creative dynamics, stuff that I think people would want to know about from lifelong musicians and people that have been in bands forever. And it might just be interesting, and maybe it's not interesting. You listen to our music and you're like, this band sucks. Like, I don't give a shit what this guy says. This isn't really interesting, and I don't think that they're any good. So it doesn't matter what he says. I would say, even if you think that we suck and you don't like our music, I think there's still interesting points that you can find here if you're a fan of music. I have a very different philosophy on what is possible today, and a true expansion of consciousness that can happen in this artist-audience relationship. So that's it. See you next time.